Have you heard a good book today? Magic Media shows the way. Come along, listen and look to a Magic Media talking book. Turn a page and hear the band. You're in Magic Media land, where you hear the children say,
have you heard a good book today?
Hi, boys and girls. This is Mr. Magic. All ready to enjoy your Magic Media talking story? Just follow along in your book with the storyteller, and when you hear this signal, turn the page. Now, let's begin.
This is the tale of Peter Rabbit. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank under the root of a very big fir tree.
"Now, my dears," said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, "you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. Now run along and don't get into mischief."
Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane together to gather blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight to Mr. McGregor's vegetable garden and squeezed under the gate.
There goes Peter Rabbit again, doing what his mom said not to do. He can't see why he shouldn't try to take a couple things to eat and run. He thinks disobeying is fun.
He ate some lettuce, some French beans, and some radishes. Then, feeling sick, he looked for some parsley. But around the end of a cucumber frame, he met Mr. McGregor. He was on his hands and knees planting young cabbages. But he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and shouting, "Stop! Thief!" Peter was frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one shoe among the cabbages and the other among the potatoes. Then Peter ran on all 4 legs and might have escaped altogether had he not run into a gooseberry net and got caught by the large buttons on his jacket. It was a blue jacket, quite new. Peter gave himself up for lost and began to cry. But some friendly sparrows overheard him. They begged him to try as hard as he could to get loose. Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve, which he intended to pop over Peter. But Peter wiggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind him. He rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a watering can. It would have been a fine thing to hide in if it had not been half full of water. Mr. McGregor was sure that Peter was in the shed, perhaps hidden under a flower pot. He began turning the pots over, looking under each one. Presently, Peter sneezed. Achoo! Mr. McGregor was after him at once. He tried to put his foot on Peter, who jumped out of a window, upsetting 3 plants. Peter dashed to the nearest bush. Soon he sat down to rest. Peter was breathless and trembling with fright. He was lost. He found a door in the wall. It was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to slip underneath it. An old mouse ran over the doorstep carrying peas and beans to her family in the woods. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth she could not answer. She only shook her head. Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently he came to the pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water cans. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. Peter thought it best not to speak to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. He went back toward the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scratch, 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 scratch. Peter scurried underneath some bushes, but nothing happened, so he came out again, climbed up on a wheelbarrow, and peeped over. There was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back was toward Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter slipped quietly off the wheelbarrow and scooted along the walk behind some black currant bushes. Mr. McGregor caught sight of him, but Peter did not care. He slipped under the gate and was soon safe in the woods. Peter never stopped running until he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped right down on the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and shoes he had lost in 2 weeks. Needless to say, poor little Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea. She gave a dose of it to Peter.
1 teaspoonful to be taken at bedtime.
But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had brown bread and milk and blackberries for supper.
There goes Peter Rabbit again, paying for the mischief that he made. Now he knows that all Mama wants is to keep her little bunny safe and sound, and Peter Rabbit's glad that she's around.